Hey there, it's Matt. How's it going? Just taking a nice walk, just free roaming, exploring the world. But really, it's not much of a exploration in a sense when you are just walking down the same path as always, right? But oh wait. But I am definitely taking in the view, appreciating the scenery, and onward. So I just want to talk about something. Just want to say something quickly about my last video. My last video, sort of erratic, right? I just want to say a few things about it. I think that if society were to truly know me, which is a common theme of my seance, right, of my trip. But if society were to know me, which I started thinking it like maybe a year or so ago, then there would be a lot more of a reception, at least in terms of normalcy, then there would be way more of a reception, right? So it's the obvious point is that I've said our society is watching me. Society knows who I am. But maybe it's simply not as such. Maybe it simply isn't true. But I do have some theories regardless to share. So my current count is 39 subscribers. So listen up, subscribers. I have some thoughts to share. I think regardless, some parts remain to be the truth. I think I'm escaping a perilous conundrum. I'm escaping a potentially even inescapable outcome. I am fighting my schizophrenia not by simply taking my meds and letting it dissipate. It's rather a very forward-thinking, progressive process where I am deciphering what it is I need to say, how it is I need to be in order to prevent the hysteria from appearing any longer. See, I think the point is that there was once a time where at 22 years old, I stopped experiencing my mental illness, right? It happened for 5 months or so, and it came back. It came back into my life. Came back into my life. I started suspecting lately that the whole point is that I was, whether it has been because of an outside influence or my own mind's sake, my schizophrenia became simulated, okay? Which means it started functioning correlative to the simulator. It started solely being able to function on the basis of very limited time in a sense, but could have still been an extremely long time. Could have lasted my whole life, I suspect, unless I truly did what I did. I suspect that it was running on sets of batteries, okay? And it became a tracking surveillance system that would follow me around based on the assumptions of where I am, the assumption of where I'll be, and so on. It would at first it started by putting me through perilous trials, such as, oh no, I can't breathe through my nose anymore, and my mouth, it doesn't quite function well with my lungs. This happened for 10 minutes. So I did not breathe for 10 minutes. Swear to God, that's a true story. Might have not shared it before, I don't know. But I felt like my lungs were breathing regardless, so there's that. Next morning, felt a bit shitty, right? So I just passed out. I went to sleep. I gave up. And honestly, a part of me thought I could die that day. Like, a big part of me thought I could die that day. Well, there are too many questions in my mind about what this process has truly meant. One thing is for certain, I cannot deny its importance. Its importance seems all too riveting, all too significant for me to deny. Have there been bad parts to this process? Hell yes, there have. I mean, for example, I cannot remember very well anymore. And it's like every time I regain my memory, I then lose it a bit later. I've killed some of my vocabulary. There was this case in Phoenix Wright, this game, this visual novel where you are playing as a lawyer that solves crimes. There was this case where in the courtroom, you questioned this business CEO that owned the world, and he used this one word. I completely did not understand it. And it's only by Googling it that I got it. But I remembered I never Googled for that word when I was younger. And I got it regardless. So that was kind of unbelievable to me. How I could have a worse vocabulary in some ways than better speaker, but worse vocabulary than even my 15, 16-year-old self. That's kind of sad, right? I think overall I have improved with my speaking capability, and in some sense I've improved with my vocabulary, but clearly not the whole way, right? They have been perceptive of where I am, but something sketchy about it. Like I said, it's almost like I'm not certain about it, but it's almost like they are preemptively following me. That's what it feels like. But then I'll think something else, and I'll think something else. Right, like there's no certainties to what isn't factually proven. There's no certainties to anything that isn't on paper and iterated and reiterated, and there's something that isn't blatant. The sky seems the light shade of blue that it is. The clouds are real. Or lives, the clouds are lives. They certainly seem real. Are they real? Like, are the things experienced really real? I don't know what that's really supposed to mean in a sense, right? Like, as long as it seems real, and it must be. But if you're talking in the specific sense of we are physically here instead of imagining ourselves, and we're simply working on an imagined basis, then I have some thoughts about that. There was the most frightening moment ever that happened to me, where I realized one thing as a result. My voice is certainly purely artificial. My voice exists on the basis of my will to continue to live. It creates itself out of an artificial pragmatic purpose. And what I think it means is that the simulated functions that surround me, the simulated basis, keeps my voice going. Because to be able to cut out my voice, which has happened twice, and for my voice to feel like it could drop from my mouth at any point, right? That's very scary. Not only that, but it contradicts Anatomy, autonomy, like one or the other, it contradicts the body's function. Because it is said the vocal cords from the throat are definitely beyond what creates your voice. And in a sense, it may be true, but I believe it's a lot more artificial than people think. See, here's the fact of the matter. If you are a biologist, right? If you are a man who seeks to understand the point behind our body and how it functions, then the sole reasonings that can be will be associative links, and they'll be pragmatic. There'll be pragmatic features, pragmatic explanations. Pragmatic explanations. If it's really like it blows my mind, okay, because in a sense I completely understand how the throat can associate with the voice. In fact, in a sense it's like it can't be otherwise, because like sometimes the voice kind of dims or it chokes up, and you think the only way that can be is through the throat, because you kind of feel it through the throat, right? But I cannot deny my experiences. I cannot deny the fact that I have spoken things that iterated themselves into different things, almost like I spoke a sentence that iterated itself into a different sentence because my voice, it was possessed all along. See, it's one of the wacky theories I've grown is that the whole of the body exists sentiently, but not in the way that you think. Or arms, or legs individually, or eyes, or mouth. It really lives its own life. It simply blends into you. But it thinks its own thoughts. It has its own realizations. Now you think, how is that possible when the brain is not a feature of your arm, right? It is like the brain is your mind's element, and it exists with you. It doesn't exist for the sake of your arm or your leg. So I cannot explain really, maybe someday, but I cannot explain how it is possible, but I know that it's a very common theme of what I've been going through. It's an extremely common theme, and lately my inner voice, it is getting more and more real. I mean, it speaks to me, you know, like this one time I was just flipping the fuck out because I felt so depressed and manic, and then my inner voice, like, I don't know, like something sweet happened, and I told my inner voice, I was like, why do you even support me, you know? I believe it said it was like, because I love you. You know, my body supports me, that's the point. And a really good indicator that it is true is the rare cases where the arms move on their own, right? Which there are cases where that happens in this world, as sad and petrifying as it is. There are cases where it happens in this world, where the body moves on its own. It doesn't move for you, it moves for its own will. And I've always wondered how it would be if you tried like talking to the arm, if you got the arm to ride, if, you know, there'd be interesting experiments to have, really. But maybe it's just too artificial, or random, I mean. Too much of a condemnation of the being, instead of a more so, I guess, still spontaneous, but a more so reasoned endeavor. You know, it's a bit scary because they are my support system, but it's a bit more than that. I exist because they are all carrying my weight around. The support system of the simulator, and specifically the beings that have surrounded me, they are carrying my weight forward. It's the sole reason I exist. Otherwise, I may be dead, or I may have never existed. I don't know. It's really like, they are like for example, like I thought of the word reason, but before I wouldn't have thought of the word. They realized it because I run on a limited memory bank. So they allocated the word, and then I thought of the word reasons. But really the truth is it's kind of, to me, it's extremely normal. These things take time. I mean, if there's a foreshadowed outcome for someone, okay, then it must be as is. Otherwise, everyone would get healed, right? Which is a great, amazing thing, don't get me wrong, but my point is that people don't get healed like that. Like, there is medicine, but people don't get healed. So, I guess more than anything, I just think that it is, I'm still dealing with the memory problems. I just, on this concept of healing, actually, I want to say something. I think that, I was thinking about this earlier. I even chatted ChatGPT over it. You know, cancer, we all know cancer. You grow up knowing about cancer, right? But you know what scares me about cancer? What are the preventative measures? Now, I really want you to think about that, okay? Because yes, there are ways to check for some forms of cancer, but not all of them, okay? What does that mean? Now, the troubling part is, despite cancer research being funded into the billions of dollars, okay, you could afford many teams of brilliant scientists at that point. You could really dig deep into the issue and get to the bottom of it. I'm not saying it would be easy, but the point is that not only is there obviously no cure, not only is there obviously such a problem with just understanding the condition, but it seems that cancer, it's only it's not checked for. That's my point. They really don't like check for it, and I think the sole way, like, based on this stuff, I was looking at Google results, and I saw that, you know, oh, if you have a skin rash or something like that, like there's something about like the skin, or then it may lead to them checking for if you have cancer. Then it may lead to, then it may lead to this, then it may lead to that. But I haven't been checked for cancer once. I'm 27. Who has really been checked for cancer? I wonder. I mean, if there's no motivator to check for the cancer, then how do you even know? If the cancer isn't a blatant problem until it kills you, then I'm extremely surprised that more people haven't been killed without being checked up first on. It's just an assumption, okay? Although I think I may have read something like that. But I'm really surprised that more people haven't been, fucking so entrapped in their cancer that they have died. I tried to chat GPT over it. It said that the cancer was potentially simply healed on the basis of the human body, and beyond that, it gave no real explanation other than, yes, I know, but cancer can still be potentially checked for in some ways and so on. But it's kind of insane to me that people are asking for a cure when it cannot even be perfectly detected. There's no, there are x-rays. The fact that there's no solution based on an x-ray, I mean, that is just blasphemously whack. But, we're able to invent vaccines, and at that point, there's a big question mark in my head, right? There's a huge question mark in my head. Anyways, I want to share something. I still think, despite the fact that I'm being supported by the simulator, I think there's a very real reason for it. I don't think it's out of some people's goodwill, or some creatures' goodwill, some beings' goodwill. Really, I think it has to do with my own will. I think I forced it to happen. I think I fought for myself. But, really, the truth is I have no doubt that the beings in my surroundings don't despise me, or at least hate me. You see, maybe the point is that I can't have 39 subscribers without being known so little that it's almost as if I don't exist to the mainstream, or literally don't. Yet they justify their insecurities every day with me. Yet the members of society show up in my mind. But very easy to perceive it as, hey, it's just another case of schizo, and plenty of other people have celebrities that speak to them to their schizophrenia, and it's just life in of itself, and let's move on. I'm not the only one, right? I'm really not the only one. But if that turns out to be a complete lie, if this is a conspiracy from society, I wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. If anything, I'd be quite relieved to know the truth finally and at last. But it would really be a big indicator. Because despite the 100,000 car thefts a year in Canada, we are so polite, aren't we? Despite the continuous school shootings in the US, it is just such a polite crowd, isn't it? I said those are individuals, right? That acted polite their whole lives. That most acted not so senile, and that had a firm head on their shoulders until they decided the time is right, let's commit a crime. My point is pretty clear. I mean, maybe people are two-faced. And me personally, I try to not be, right? I try to be my own self, and that's it. And lately, it's not really about trying anymore. There was a time where it was more like that. But lately, it's not really about it. But, they are committed to worsening my prospect, I can guarantee you that. And why? They have given me reasons. I am too cool. I'm too sharp. I'm too intelligent. I'm too creative. I'm too clever. I mean, really, they're terrible reasons, but I'm not laughing for a reason. Because it's not a joke to them. They really mean it. Now, it's clear by the musical industry and just industries in general that pertain to entertainment. I mean, don't get me wrong, I adore the AAA industry more than most gamers. Some gamers say that the older games are where it's at. I think the newer games are where it's at. But in every industry, it's clear that there's a marginalization for true uniqueness, for true originality, and then that's why that every time a brilliantly unique product comes out, which has happened, then it gets to being eventually known in cult acclaim, or it reaches the top of the charts, or it sells incredibly well. Anything that is beautifully made, that is original, either it's like that, or perhaps it simply petters out of existence. But really, you notice that with the popular precedents, with the popular artists and creatives, then it's all too clear, really. It's the former every time. So then you really have to ask yourself, what does it mean to fall off? What does it mean for an artist, a creative, to fall off? Really ask yourself what that means. Now, inspiration is logical methodicality. But I think inspiration is it's really it's a lot more programmed than people think. That's the only way it can be, is if people are giving a limited shelf life of ideas. Then they run out. Then they have to rely on their own instinct, and then they're not nearly as good. They're given the right ideas, they're given the right poignance, they capitalize upon it, they perform it, and then the time passes, maybe they release a few other classics or something, and then they lose their inspiration. The only way for it to make sense for inspiration to die, because, well, you think that inspiration would be based on the lucidity of the passion, or the gratification of the creation. You wouldn't think that it's based on artificial tendencies, but if that is the case, then why doesn't it last until death in the same way, the same quality? Now, you can argue it's because they're being brought down by peer pressure and they're bowing down to society and all that. But really, I don't think that's it. I think they'd like to release more works like their favored works. I think they'd like to release more, let's say, classic albums or so on. Now, in terms of individuals or small groups, it's one thing, and then video game development is an entirely different beast, a much bigger group, right, with ever-changing members. So, for video games, it would especially, and for film, it would especially rely on the dynamic of the inner workings at the studio, but I'd argue the exact same thing. The exact same thing. Naughty Dog will forever be Naughty Dog, and Insomniac will forever be Insomniac, and CD Projekt Red will forever be CD Projekt Red. It's really that in the end. It is dependent on the representation of the results. It is dependent on the branding. Whoever represents the branding gets the ideas. I think that everyone has ideas written up for them in some form or another. I mean. And it's possible that at the end of the day it can simply explain itself, and that creativity is spontaneous solely and based on the ingenuity and the passion. But I just don't believe it, so whatever. I think it's a lot more complicated than that, at least. It might play a part, but it's a lot more complicated than that. They are how are they analyzed the surroundings? You know, I am a firm believer in the respectfulness of our kind and the element of trust and hope that we hold in our hearts. The most I'll disrespect someone on this planet is by taking a walk and speaking too loudly to myself. I will not push anyone. I will not hurt anyone. I will not commit to someone experiencing grievances. With the voices, with the surroundings, the presences, it is very different in a sense. Although I do think I keep a firm and leveled head, because they do bring forward and talk about some questions. It's always been hard to explain. It have to be shown. But they would be persuaded, I would piss them off, they would be persuaded into insulting me instead of inherently insulting me, right? And they would do it because they felt that, well, the same comments as before. Because I'm too intelligent, blah, blah, blah. They just can't help it with that. I mean, they're non-stop with it, really. They keep on saying they're jealous of me. Despite the fact that I may be content, I may enjoy my life, but certainly they could, if they're really living lives, right? They could enjoy it in the same way. They could just leave their space and enjoy their lives, but somehow they let my life consume them. They let it absolutely consume them. And that's what fools me, right? Because such an obsession is not only unhealthy, but at this point, it feels impossible. So therefore, they keep on going and going, and they keep on getting jealous and getting angered. And as a direct result, I reciprocate my truths. I do not really insult them. I more so tell them how I feel about the matter. But I would say that, I did say it before, how is it a sensible fucking argument? That's what I've said about that. Isn't being intelligent a good thing? I want you to consider something as well. The jealousy in the industry is real. I mean, fucking Rivers Cuomo did not add more than one synthesizer moment to Pinkerton, okay? Because Matt Sharp created Return of the Rentals, the first album from the Rentals, and it was a synthesizer-driven album in many ways. It at least accompanied the other instruments. Rivers despised him so much for, quote-unquote, stealing his idea, even though it's a neutral concept. It shouldn't have mattered. Rivers despised him so much for stealing his idea that I'm sure he must have blasphemed him, but the most important part is that on Songs from the Black Hole, this in-between album from after Weezer's verse, plenty of synthesizer work, right? On Pinkerton, one song. I read this online, and it was like sort of an interview or an informative segment. I did spot it online. It was made to be known about. Back then, I was a huge fanatic of Weezer. I didn't really think much of it, but nowadays, it strikes me as perhaps the most resonative concept that could be. Because while we would hide our pettiness, while we would hide our insecurities, if they exist, then eventually they have to show up, right? If they exist, then they just have to appear. Otherwise, they don't exist. And I think, if you are the age rivers was at that point, did you really become a mature monk and save your own life from pettiness? I mean, I really would wonder about that. I appreciated the music. I adored the music, really. It has been a moving on thing for me. So Rivers would speak his mind about it. And so I'm a pathetic fuck up for not listening to his music anymore, right? And of course, it's just a schizophrenia. I mean, how could it be anything else? Because if it truly is beings that somehow correlate to this life, correlate to this earth, correlate to what they really are, if it really is beings that have existed beyond our time, that existed in after that spiritual scenario, if it really is the truth, then who isn't psychopathic? And I wonder at that point why it is that I'm really being watched. What makes me so different, after all, in that instance? What makes me so worthy, right? I'm so touched. I mean, you just feel like watching me 24/7. It must be so touching in the end for someone, right? So, the point is that in the reciprocation in life is a disingenuity. People, you want to believe in them, okay? I want to believe in others. Despite what it may seem like, I could not be more serious about it. I desperately want to believe in other people, but while it's easy for some, it tends to be very easy, surprisingly easy in general, to believe on people at the surface of the matter, maybe it's too significantly more complicated than it seems. Maybe we're not just some chilled out, hunky-dory folks, right? Maybe we are all too ritualistic deep down to realize it, in a sense, at least. I really want you to wonder to yourself, my stepdad, he disagrees with this concept, okay? I really want you to think to yourself, how is it that the politicians that gain prominent influence, how is it that so many of them are just so warped and crooked now? The truth is you can agree with the concept and be thinking of different politicians, right? Some would say Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or Bernie Sanders, who would be the socialist figures, would want to put the government in massive debt and steal the people's bank accounts and so on for wanting to provide basic income, which she doesn't even really talk about it. Because that $1,000 will certainly, more nukes, right, boys? I mean, come on, let's spend those billions and let's bomb Iraq some more and let's do this and that. We're struck this point that Bernie, the biggest payout Bernie ever got from a company was $50,000. Trump, $277 million. It really struck me as all too poignant. I mean, it's a SpaceX payment. It's right fucking there, right? You can find it easily. You just search it online. Bernie, $50,000. Hey, here you go. Hey, Bernie, I make more than 35 grand in a day, right? I make probably 10 times that, but here you go, Bernie. A nice $35 for your solemn ass. Piece of shit, right? That's practically what it is. I mean, wow, that 35 grand is so generous, Jeff Bezos. Right? Then an establishment. Still, I thought she was fairly great. Kamala Harris. Establishment. Still much more. But I thought the fact she wanted to double the minimum wage, a great thing, right? Anyways, the whole point is that in the truth behind life is a fact, which is money speaks. So it's a very viable argument based on what I've just said, even That the truth is, Trump was paid for. Trump got more advertisement money. Bernie wasn't. There's something that deeply troubles me about that, though. And that is that the internet speaks much more loudly. And really, Trump can have all of the TV adverts that he fucking wants. Okay? What else does it buy you? It buys you the billionaire's approval. And what does that mean? Well, Elon spoke at his rally, but the grand majority of them, they just stayed silent. It really makes you think. TV adverts and, I mean, Bernie was gathering people organically, right? They both kind of were, but maybe that's the point. They both were, but maybe that's the point. If they're gathering people organically, then it makes you think that they're very easily viewable. Anyone that has the internet can view them so easily. We're not bound to the TV anymore. Maybe back then it makes more sense to sit down and think he got 277 million, he's bound to win. Now it doesn't make much sense to me. I understand it is to support the cause, but other than TV advertisements, what can really be done? I mean, Bernie went on all of the shows. You know, Jimmy Kimmel and so on, Stephen Colbert. Bernie was on pretty much all of them. I mean, he got the same amount of attention in that sense. It's a show that would be watched with a very similar amount of viewers regardless. Even if Trump would say, biggest turnout of all time, you know. In fact, they'll mock Trump. Trump got it regardless, sense. What does that mean? Well, the second term, they're surprisingly chilled out, giving he's being a fair bit worse at least, right? I mean, he's being worse about things. They're all more chilled out about him. I really have to catch up with the Jimmy Kimmels and the Stephen Colberts, but I get the feeling based on the little I've seen, because I'm busy making music and I should educate myself more, but I got a feeling that it's like, honestly, overall, it's an extremely shady thing. It's a really shady thing indeed. Because they said it was a rebellious thing, right? Has that ever really worked out? I guess it worked out for the first time with Trump. But I don't know. You know, it's so strange to me the way it goes. It's almost like it's actually screaming it out. That there's an outside influence that's dictating matters a lot more than we think. That it doesn't have the healthiest of intentions for the world. That is absolutely certain. And I think that really more than anything though, the concepts are maybe there are some people that still just get influenced by the TV, right? But plenty of people at this point, as the older generation is dying and as the younger generation is growing, they rely on the internet more than ever. At that point, it's all about what you truly support, the ideology you support. I just want to say something. I have no problem with right-leaning people. In fact, I appreciate some of the ideology. I even said it in the last video, but Trump starting to seem problematic to initiate a tariff war like that. And I am proud of our Canadian representatives for supporting us. But sadly, it is by retaliating. Now, what you notice is that if they retaliate, then Trump retaliates, and they retaliate. There are very few choices at that point. The pipeline never did get built. I really doubt it, at least. I don't remember the pipeline getting built. And I watched a Pia put a video on it. It depends on how long ago it was, but it tells of how for pipelines are inherently relying on the U.S. And Pia very much, massively vouches for that pipeline in particular. I think it is like the East Line pipeline or something. And Trudeau disallocated it. Trudeau denied it. He made smart points. He was thinking with his head. I mean, Pia was really thinking with that one, in sincerity. And I think that the whole point, really, is that perhaps Trudeau was even paid off in some way. I wouldn't be surprised by it. There's two moments that I've seen that make me think that. The second one is how there is this app for the Canadian government, this application for phones that they were developing that got to be so exuberantly costly that Pia questioned Trudeau over it, and Trudeau's response was the same rhetoric as every time he references the right? He did not answer the question. Instead, he spewed the same bullshit about how you are madness and you are driving the country in the wrong direction and so on. And I know they can both be hateful to each other, but really, it just struck me as immature. Very immature. Anyways, the point is that as long as the right keeps its sanity, as long as it doesn't obey its hypocrisy, which I mean, you know, if Bill Clinton, okay, or Obama, or fucking Joe Biden, like Joe Biden, the laptop, right? The laptop of the century at this point. Because no one could stop shutting the fuck up about it, or just talking about it non-stop. Like, no one could shut the fuck up about it. That's my point. In fact, it was one of the most discussed parts of Joe Biden from the right side. They just did it non-stop, and I swore on that, despite what they tried to insert in my mouth, right? The evil, vicious surroundings. I swore on that. Really, they were non-stop, and it's over. I've forgotten exactly what, but maybe it would lead to a few allegations. Maybe it would lead to, you know, a bit of prison time. I mean, Trump was dealing with 70, 80, you know. And in the middle of potentially being prosecuted and serve jail time, he won the presidency. Not one supporter mentions he is just protecting himself. He is just fighting against the allegations. He just wants the credence so he can save himself from his allegations because he is rich. And he wants to do the right thing for the world. Such as anyone else would fucking say it. Any other criminal would say it in a dire time. So let's give him the benefit, because if it was just some poor fucking sap, then he'd be beyond in jail. He'd be in jail for life at this point. So, what does it mean for Trump to have won regardless? You can argue the U.S. is brainwashed and so on, and the people aren't thinking for themselves. And in a sense, I take it a step further. What if they ever really, like, it feels like, it seems like you're truly thinking for yourself, okay? But we're all bet on. I really want you, like, I think we're bet on by the outside sphere, or the outside perspective. Like, I think we are watched and we're manipulated and influenced. Okay? I would not blame it on a present Earth crew, like on a crew that lives on Earth right now. I would not say the Illuminati or the Third Eye, but in a sense it is a similar concept. It is very similar. I mean, there are people that bask in the shadows, right? They live in the shadows. And as a direct result, they are influencing and they're manipulating. And the point is that prior to our existence is a preparation and a red carpet for existence. If you can be reincarnated, okay, in any way, if you can live after death in any way, which a lot of people believe in heaven, then it's just a fact at that point that it happens. I think so. Because it adds an extra layer to the dimension. It really does. So, I just think that there's a proponent in people's minds that makes them think a certain kind of way. And as a direct result, those people, they will form their consensus and they will form their opinions. But who knows? If you lifted the veil, if you lifted the cloud, would it be the same way? Because you notice how emotionally fucking involved people can get when it comes to their arguments, when it comes to their beliefs, what they truly believe in. Okay? People can get defensive as fuck. Me, I don't care. Fucking convince me of otherwise, and I'll gladly listen. I might not be on your side, but I'll always listen. I'll always support you. Okay? It's really a shame. It's an absolute shame that people cannot see reason more in some instances. And I think that, are they making excuses for Trump? Are they making fucking excuses for Trump? Yeah, a bit too much. I mean, you can support the right side. Okay, that's fine. Obviously. When a third of the fucking Republicans are beyond in disagreement with Trump, and when they've put it out there to public that they're in disagreement with Trump, which is the sole way that it would happen. When even the guy, I'm forgetting his name, but I'm not even going to bother, right? Because it's just a mean comment. But when even the guy, okay, like there's this one guy that I thought would forever be on Trump's side, and he kind of looks like, kind of has a funny look. There's this one guy I thought would always be on Trump's side, right? No matter what. I remember seeing him online on the net. He was a hated right-leaning politician, right, by a lot of people. Straight up discredited him in an interview. Straight up spoke against him. I read about that. So what does that mean? Well, despite the fact that a third of the party doesn't support him, despite the fact that he was facing 70 allegations and counting, despite the fact that it's pretty clear at this point that Trump would say it's lies, it's garbage, it doesn't matter. I mean, if they are piling up and piling up and piling up, if it's really just a discriminatory act from the conglomerate, or fucking, if it's really just like a shitty version of justice where they're like framing him for no real reason, then I really want you to think about it. Why weren't the other politicians that could have gotten the presidency going through the same thing? As a matter of fact, Trump is beyond for the billionaires, so what's left? The left-leaning fucking politicians? Well, as far as I remember, any other candidate never dealt with nearly that much fucking accusations. Okay? They never had that much framing upon them. I mean, I'd have to check it out more. I'd have to check out the court case. It got canceled, of course. But certainly there's a point to be made, right? Now, it is very sad. I think it is fucking sad. It is a sad situation for that reason. And now there's the Department of Governmental Efficiency, because we can kind of be real about it, right? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Like Elon spoke on stage, and he said, vote for whoever you want. But Elon did play into the cards as much as he could. I mean, he paid Trump the most out of any business by $100 million. So maybe to him it's like merely any money, right? And maybe it's someone else that saves their lives for 10 lifetimes, right? Like, so the whole point is that they, I even like at his some kind of inauguration kind of deal, there's a famous picture online where the billionaires are standing next to each other. If Trump was truly supported that much by the billionaire crowd, then why the fuck would he have been framed? I mean, they'd start by saying the billionaires own the world, then they'd say Trump was framed. Okay? You're talking 70 allegations. On stage, Joe Biden, Kamala, do they even call him a fucking criminal? Do they even call him a criminal at all? I mean, I think Hillary mostly did it. But are they fucking doing it? Nah, homie, they're not. Oh, Trump, I'm so sorry that you got shot at. Except he didn't get fucking shot. Not only that, it was a botched fucking operation, and it really made me think. How could you say that his ear got shot? I wonder, huh? Because he had like a little like plaster on it, right? And then suddenly, miraculously, without any surgery, the plaster comes off and the ear is completely there. If it was truly just a shitty shooter, okay, because it happened twice, I think that's the conspiracy to really talk about, if anything. Like, if I was really a shitty shooter, then that is one thing, and I kind of feel bad for him, even with the allegations, because, well, I guess a bunch of people value the fucking guy, right? But I mean, really think about it. Really think about it, okay? Both times he was not, like, I don't know, like, what the fuck was even going on with the Secret Service. He was, like, holding on to his ear or something. It's like he preemptively held on to his ear. Bro, the fucker wasn't shot, I guarantee it. He wasn't fucking shot. That's it, period. Not only that, who questions him on it? Oh, come on, 20 years ago? 30 years ago? Fucking, let's say Obama, okay? This is what happens on Fox News if Obama gets shot at. You know I'm calling it, says Sean Hannity. Bam, slams his hand on the table. Or the desk or whatever. A pure conspiracy is what it is. And certainly there's a coincidence in how the relation with the African Americans is in question every day. Isn't there, folks? Certainly it is conspicuous. You'd say how Obama played into the race card and this and that, because you have to make everything about race, don't we? I just guarantee it that shit would happen. But because it's Trump, my lips are sealed, dear Trump. Let me suck your dick, dear Trump, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's a bit too clear, isn't it? There are powers that rule the world a bit more than people think. But in different ways than people think. But I've always thought, you know what? The world, it needs a superhero. It desperately needs one. Because the basic income problem is not being solved. Listen, okay? If you are going to fund your fucking citizens, that is number one. Automation is becoming a thing. The billionaires are opening their hearts to it. Not only does the right side think it's purely heretic, okay, to offer basic income, but the left side is not beyond not completely on board. They're regressing away from it. They're focused on the medical care. You know, medical care is a very nice thing, right? But just like the student loans, it becomes a massively debatable issue. You know how much Medicare fucking costs the U.S.? Too much. Too fucking much, okay? It wasn't like, I think it was like $277 billion in a year or something. I mean, it's really an expensive, stupendously expensive expense because the politicians want the medications cost too much, okay? If someone did invent a cure for cancer, he'd be shot up on the block. Because even though it would cost the government one third as much, maybe they wouldn't receive their bigger check at the end of the day individually, right? Because they will fill their pockets with the government's money. The debt, where does it really come from, I wonder? Don't tell me that in the US, okay, in the United fucking States, even in Canada, although Canada, I give them the benefit of the doubt more. Why? Because while we are a much smaller populace, we also deal with significantly less billionaires. But still, it probably amounts to a pretty similarly even amount of money. If not, Canada's probably a bit richer when you consider the economy. Because when you consider the amount of people, I mean, because they're not playing into the war element, right? Not nearly as much. So I'll make the argument for both countries. I live in Canada. I'll make the argument for both countries. The US is especially clear. It's a billionaire hub, for crying out loud. It's a billionaire fucking center. They are taxing them a hell of a lot. I mean, they could be taxing them hypothetically like as much as Canada, but really they're taxing them a lot. But I really want you to think about it, okay? All of the money that's made by them, 25 to 30% or so, but you know, they are then using tax exemptions and so on. I mean, Elon said it publicly, maybe lies about some things, but Elon straight up said, I paid my 30%, I don't know about the other ones. You know, how are they not simply affording it regardless of Bernie's plan to raise the taxes up on the billionaires and regardless of the egregiousness of such a thing to them to the point that, hey, it's a reason to cancel him out. I mean, Bernie's not being so smart with that, but it's more than that. Despite how much I like the guy, I think Bernie is being obtuse with that for a reason. Because if he hadn't, done it, then he probably would have fucking won. If he hadn't triggered the billionaires so hard that they peed their pants for a few moments, he would have fucking won. I guarantee it. Too much of a public rallying behind him. Bernie, be a bit more moderate, okay, just in one way, and you'll get to give the basic incomes to people, okay? Because the people rallied for it. It's one of the things they like the most. It's one of the things they fucking like the most, man. Okay? So, we live in, what I think is that we live in a manufactured world, more than anything. We live in a world of manufactured hysteria, manufactured feelings, manufactured people. Yet what's ironic is the simulation theory might be, you know, popularized to a degree. The grand majority still think the same thing. We live on a natural ground, on a natural basis, and we are naturally born and so on. I mean, see, it's possible that the universe, the initial implementation, right, was a natural burst of energy, right? That's possible. But at this point, I guarantee it, we're fucking simulated. We are goddamn simulated, man. The point is that the hysteria breeds the views. It's really simple. The hysteria breeds the views. Therefore, Well, it just ends up being so that there is a conundrum after another. It just ends up being so that there's always a reason to watch the news, and there's always a reason to discuss something morbid or something fucked up or something just dramatic. And we're all creating it for ourselves. Think about the irony, okay? We are creating a worse standard of life. We are less pragmatic. We are less even kind, gentle, obviously. All because we want to mock. But why do we mock? So we can feel better about ourselves amongst our insecurities. And that's all I can really think of in terms of that. I mean, they'll laugh, right? The people will laugh. Ha ha ha, so funny. And the people will cheer it on. But at the end of the day, it's so they can feel better about themselves. And that mechanism is insecurity all the way. It really is. So, yeah. It's conundrum after another, isn't it? I mean, you've got Bernie, that's this really, and I know I watched the Mark Carney speech, I watched the Pierre Poilievre video, but beyond that, I do not fucking know about Canadian politics. I read about Justin, I read the Justin Wikipedia, Justin Trudeau. I looked at one of his speeches, I thought, very well said, you know, but that's about it. But one thing's for sure, I know it's a big accusation, but the deliberate fuckery, it would even happen with a guy that's nice like Bernie, right? So it would happen with all of them. I mean, they're all crooked. I think they're receiving orders from like a demonic guide or a godlike guide or something that is telling them what to do. Because I just can't help it. It's just a theory of mine, you know. Like, I've been dealing with this process that has told me so many times, and really it's like, you know, your experiences are inherently valid as long as they happen. I mean, you might have hallucinated that gooey green monster, but how is it not valid because of that? Because other people didn't see it. Well, it's still your experience. It still happened to you. So how is it not valid because of that? You know? I think you shouldn't let it give you paranoia. You shouldn't let it make you fearful. But your experiences are your experiences. That should be fine, Lawrence. To dismiss them, if it's for your health, then do it. But if it's for the sake of society seeing it as delusional, you're just wronging yourself. You're just fucking up at that point. Because I think they're all doing it. They're all lying. Okay? And yes, like, I have a few friends. They're very sweet people, right? Like, I chatted with one called Ahmed. You know, he doesn't really like immigration, right? Like, that's what he told me. We're chatting about, like, it's funny, you know, because I would thought he would have liked immigration because, well, I don't know if it's a weird correlative element, maybe not, but Muslim, former Muslim guy, right? But doesn't like immigration much. He has like some Quran quotes on his wall, right? Anyways, chatted him up, and I chatted him up, and a really beautiful chat, right? I don't have a single problem with Ahmed, but let's say a God spoke to Ahmed, and let's say he said, just behave more assertively in this moment, or just be more poetic for this segment, I'll give you the right ideas, or just do this, or just do that. He would, snap of a finger, he would do it. He wouldn't question it. He wouldn't go against it. He'd just do it. That's what I've noticed about this world. There is a force that no one speaks about, that it seems like it possesses us all. And then it makes us do things. I mean, another impossible moment, right? When have I not experienced those? happened to me just a few days ago. This one maybe a week ago, where I time traveled somehow. I mean, I need to explain that one, right? I might have spoken of it. I don't know if I spoke of it. It might have been in my latest take, which I never posted because I lied in that take. But it really has to do with how I live in this group housing, right? And in the morning, I decided I'd leave. I went to McDonald's, okay? On my walk back to McDonald's, maybe like 9:30 by the time I got to the group housing, and nothing was unusual. Like, that's what I have to reiterate. Nothing was unusual, okay? So anyways, then I enter my room. I think out of the ordinary, but when I check my phone, I think to myself, oh, the time must be glitched out, right? But the time has glitched out, it is clear. No one's ever told me anything about this, but it seems the time moved forward 2 hours. It was 11 or so, like past 11, okay? And as soon as I close my door, it's like I've become convinced that as soon as I close my door, people experience the next 2 hours, right? But I didn't. It's the only way. Because if people had seen that, something would be online, right? Like, you think, like, even with some God's orders, something would be online. But what can I say other than the Almighty is the scariest creature, right? The Almighty is the most powerful, scariest creature that could exist. I mean, we love Jesus Christ, or a lot of people love Jesus Christ, or their favorite religious icon, Messiah, but we do not speak of fear. I think people should speak of fair more. And the reason they don't is because ultimately Jesus is solely seen as a loving creature, right? That got shamelessly executed. I mean, he went on the cross. And then he reincarnated. I read some facts. I don't remember really any of them. I can play a part of it. I play into it. Like, it can be a part of it. Like, not me not remembering, right? Certain things. Because I didn't remember some inconsequential or pretty consequential, regardless, detail from all those years ago and so on. But the point is that there's such a strong belief in a support. And what do we say about power? Power is scary, right? We all say it. Power is frightening. Because the people that are powerful, they have the capability of making decisions about our lives. Like, I mean, in terms of our lives. Politicians, for example. Even billionaires, they're the ones that raise the prices up. Business owners, CEOs, they're the ones that raise the prices up. They're the ones that give us their work in having their employees and setting it all up and managing it. And their work breeds their reward, right? I mean, I want to say that really it's an employee-driven effort a lot more than people are willing to admit. It's like the way people speak about it. It's almost like you think that Sam Altman personally coded ChatGPT, and it's almost like you think that Elon personally created the Tesla cars. And I mean, he might have contributed, right, early on, Elon, quite an engineer's mind, but that's it. He did not personally create the cars, okay? He might have created a part of the earlier cars, like that first rendition or something, and then he let the others refine it and manufacture it and so on. But yeah. Anyways, the point is that we are so scared of influential figures in a way. I'd really got to ask yourself, why wouldn't we be scared of God then? But somehow that's seen as blasphemous. I mean, they say God has nothing but love for you in his heart. I think God is ordering us around. I believe he's ordered everyone around. You know, like, if there are really people that are dying of starvation, and God is ordering people around, then God can intervene, and he shows us not intervene. Then, well, what do we fucking need at that point? Sorry, I wasn't holding the camera well. What do we need at that point? I'll let you figure it out. I've spoken about it before. It's almost like you need a magic trick, you know, at that point. Getting things right again. It's almost like when you run out of resources, especially with the mismanagement in Canada, when we run out of our resources and we do not capture them properly, then it's almost like we'll petter out. We'll simply die. I mean, animals breed other animals, right? It's not that simple that you do, but everything else, right? Food and drinks, you might be mostly good for a long time. Even though lately places run out of ingredients often. I mean, went to East Side Mario's, they ran out of ingredients for pizza and so on. It's not that uncommon for it to happen. It started happening more lately. What do we need at that point? Well, something needs to appear, right? Like if we're working on the basis of what solely exists on this earth, then we will not survive past 80 years. They will run out of materials, you know? And it's not a good thing at all. Very scary fucking thing, I think. No doubt about it. So what does that mean? Well, I'm hoping that there's a summoning phenomenon. It could be anyone, really. Like, you know, I've always wondered, like, why is it that the people of this world are so adamantly against a modern day religious figure? Because no one says it, right? But if you're not preaching for God, you're preaching for yourself, you're seen as a loony carnivorous traitor. Okay? No doubt about it. Why isn't there a preacher who preaches his own gospel, who preaches his own religious Messiah ways, based on his own fabric, his own self? Why doesn't that exist? Why is it limited on older times? We say we are innovating as people. Let's fucking innovate then. New religion, please. I mean, I wouldn't do it, but don't tell me that there's no person out there who would do it. Right, like, plenty of people deep down, they would want to do that. They have the mind for it, they want to do it. But it would be seen as pretentious schlock, right? It's surprisingly not a common theme, and yeah, it could go like kind of wrong, but I'm surprised it's not happening. How is it not happening? So because Jesus is documented on the basis of history, means that he gets credence, right? And that's the only explanation for it. Is if Jesus was born today, walking on water, you better have caught that on fucking tape, and even then, most people think it's edited, Jesus. How about you just chill out, Jesus, about that? Like, I mean, it's kind of delusional, right? It's just the truth, I mean. So, the point is that we are existentially forming alliances, or probably the point is that we romanticize legacy, okay? We romanticize legacy so significantly, I even did it myself, where I was thinking to myself, like, it's a shitty thought, but I thought to myself, what if Drake died after, if you're reading this, it's too late. what could have been, right? Except think of the fucking irony. I want you to think of the irony right now, okay? I mean, obviously, like, he did release more albums. They weren't as good. It would have been left up to the imagination, but how stupid is it to think that he should have died because he'd have a legacy? Yet people would think it. People would unironically think this shit. I fucking did. I know it's to be true. I'm not like that at all, and I fucking did it. Just like an instant automated instinct. You get what I mean? Just instantaneous in my mind. How? Like, how is it a fucking sensible idea to praise legacy that much? Like, Pink Floyd collapses after The Wall, right? Most legendary band in existence. They deserve so much more. They would have released countless classics, I guarantee it. A momentary lapse of reason. And the Division Bell, and I listened to What Do You Want From Me, and it has like the corniest bass, right? And it's like, they're not doing as well with that. It's unbelievable, really. Or maybe it's just believable, but they're not doing as well, it's clear. It's easy to romanticize what could have been. It's harder to accept what is. Let's just be real about that. And in a way, it plays exactly into the past fabric, the religious thing. You know, plays exactly into it. Like, if Jesus, like, presented that he would cure the person's blindness and did this and that about it and shared it with the world and so on, then it would probably not be seen as a hoax story, right? But just the chance that it could be seen as a hoax story, never mind that. You're talking like 3,000 years ago, I think. I really want you to think about it, okay? 3,000 fucking years, the people, they were kind of savages, right? I'm glad that he had such poetic messiahs next to him. Let's say that. I'm glad he lived with the with the 10 most open-minded people of all time, right? Like, it only can be that. Is that he lived with the most open-minded people ever. Because they followed him on the sand, they fucking believed all of his ideas, they believed his stories, they supported him until the very end. Or the naysayers crucified him, right? The naysayers crucified him. They were the most dedicated crew of messiahs ever. I mean, they decided to write for the man. They wrote a story, for crying out loud. It really makes you think. Matthew and onward, I mean, the 4 writers, right, of the Testament. I think that's how it goes. They must have been so fucking, like, dedicated toward him. It's the only way. He must have told them a hell of a lot too, because they know every ounce of his story. It's clear. They're just telling all of it. So there's that. I mean, I'm glad he got preserved and not thrown into the fire after he got crucified, right? I'm glad he got preserved. Let's just say that. It's kind of surprising that it did, though. I'm glad anything got preserved from that time period, really, as a matter of fact. Actually, I mean, I'm really thinking about it right now. Like, they would have been writing on paper, of course. Right? Must have been writing on something like that. I wonder how well it preserves. I'm just thinking about it right now. It must preserve itself really well, because that got carried throughout time. Like, ever since the internet, there isn't really much lost history anymore. Even if, like, they can take a website off the web, right? And that's kind of losing the history. But as long as you can take a picture of it, as long as there's the Wayback Machine and all that, there probably won't really be such a thing as, like, straight up lost history. As long as you can pirate a game, there probably won't be such a thing as lost history. It's not for a little while, not for a while. But, you know, I just think, like, it's really surprising that all of those writings from like before Christ, crying out loud, are still like they're so known about, they're so carried their way through time, unbelievably so, that they became a huge thing today. Okay, like we're are we more open-minded? Like in a sense, we must be. It's only possible because we're more peaceful, because we invented the technological age. An objective fact to me is that it is a sign of open-mindedness. It is a sign of innovative thinking because we progress, right? Like it's agreed that we progress. Some people might romanticize life at some point, but not really the Middle Ages, right? But I don't know, something about it. You think like there was a chance at least that it would have died as a fad. It became such a big thing, but I'm surprised it did not die as a fad. Despite the miracles, I mean, you know? Like think about it, Jesus' miracles, the ones I know of, he cured someone's blindness, okay? That person is long ago, that person died. He cured a person's blindness. He walked on water. Zero footage. I don't know who saw. What else? He traded water for wine or wine for water. I think it was water for wine. Water for wine, right? They're miraculous happenings, no doubt about it. But how is it that the consensus grew so significantly? How is it that the following, I mean, they were Roman times, okay, and he got crucified. So clearly the majority of the crowd didn't like him. So how did he end up being such a Messiah, instead of like some Roman emperor who might have been a dick, but they could have painted him in glorious ways, and it would have been fine. So how did Jesus, because I mean like, you know, if they're telling his story, at some point there's some kind of misinterpretation. I mean, I believe they started writing it after his death. So truly think about that, okay? After his death, they started writing. They did not write it like with him. They wrote it separately from him. So what does that mean? Well, they have perfect memories, I guess. They were just perfect writers like that. I know it's a sensitive subject to question people's religion because, well, people, they want to believe and they are so touched by it and they just love Jesus so very much, you know. But it just makes you think. It makes you fucking think, man. It really does. Also, I've said it before in Epistemology and the Unusual Things of Time, one of my videos. I kind of joked about like, or straight up said, I believe that the divertment of time is real. If at any point someone can conceptualize a computer, okay, then why doesn't that start the steps toward a computer? In the Middle Ages, there was some sort of like, I mean, technological backing. I mean, it's not like there were any computers or anything like that. But there was no formality for it to be pleasant, per se, like, right? So, what does that mean anyways? I argued that there were divertments in time, okay? I argued that time had diverted as the people grew up. Eventually, there was the same movement and there was the same set of ideas. And it was triggered by the outside curriculum. But then, for a reason or another, I cannot figure it out, but whatever reason it may be, time diverted, a new sound set itself forward, and suddenly everyone is fucking not thinking, I guess. Okay? Because how do you not conceptualize it? How do you not? It's not like unbelievable to anyone nowadays, and it's because I've experienced it, that's what they'll say, right? Like, it's so clear, it's because it's been experienced, it's so clear. But is it really that much of a wild idea to think, what if there was something that could show us in retrospect, right? What if there was something like some kind of material or an item, right, that could show us in retrospect? We would hold it or simply let it be, and it would see us like eyes, and then we could see ourselves. Why do we have to look into the lake? Like the material for a mirror must have existed. So I certainly hope at least mirrors were early on, right? At least mirrors, man. But you think about it, like the materials are found, right? Which means they've been there all along. Like steel, copper, all of it is found. Which means it was there. So how did they not, like, plastic, so on? So how did they manage to fuck up the very simple concept of simply thinking about the technology? You know, I need to look into Nikola Tesla's story. I thought I did some reading. I don't remember, but any of it really. But the point is that Nikola Tesla is this sort of like massive inventor, right? Who invented plenty of proactive concepts for electricity. Another prime candidate for the legacy, right? Because in many ways he significantly wasn't accepted. During his life he wasn't accepted, but he came up with all these brilliant ideas for technology and electricity in particular. And it was like in the 1800s. And really, if they had driven themselves forward with his ideas, electricity would have come much earlier, right? It's guaranteed. Electricity would have been so much earlier. So that could have been an interesting thing. That's our current history, of course. But the point is that after that, all of his research and so on, the people started seeing it really differently. That story, I can completely get it. But beyond, I get that story, right? It only makes sense to me. But that far back, I mean, I think that like before the 1800s, you'd think the documentation would often be lost. Just lost in the fucking wind, like it wouldn't exist anymore. That's all I can think, is the documentation would be lost through time. But no. There are like detailed reportings, detailed diary entries, all that, from like the 1200s, the 1300s. I mean, it's unbelievable, really. There are the paintings and so on. That's a nice thing, right? That's a really nice thing. That makes me think. There are the paintings of people from back then. So, just some thoughts that I've been having, right? Obviously, in the end, it was documented. Obviously, in the end, it was received. Obviously, all of it, because, I mean, it managed to make itself to the present day. It did not fade out through time. It's just, how do I put this, except nowadays, you do not expect something to ever become widespread, okay, and known throughout history, unless it is technologically documented, okay? You simply do not expect it to happen. But back then, entirely different story. And I agree that we've become reliant on tech. So therefore that explains itself. But regardless. There is something a bit strange about it, but I'll leave it at that. I think that's the end of the video because I will be next to cars soon. So I just want to end it here. You are amazing. I'm sorry for it being this long. I mean, I kind of don't mind, I guess, but you might mind. I mean, you have to watch the whole thing now, don't you? And now you're at the end, and that's such an epic thing. Just joking, you don't have to watch the whole thing, but you can watch the whole thing if you want. See ya, bro, or gal, or whoever you are. Bye.